from, which country you're joining us from. I would love to know that. So we have somebody from Germany. That's amazing. Great. So the theme for today's session is navigating career pathways for youth through employability and workforce readiness. It's going to be a very interesting session. But before starting this, I would love to introduce myself. I am Megha Bhatia, social entrepreneur. I run an organization called as Arvua, where we work on child sexual abuse prevention. At the same time, my organization was recently one of the winners of UNDP Innovation in terms of gender equality. Just a minute. Yes. Being a young entrepreneur myself, I have traveled all across India. I've interacted with a lot of youth from India and across the globe. And being a young entrepreneur myself, I believe we want to rule the world. We want to bring a change. We want to do a lot of things. But at times, we lack the opportunities. We lack the right skills. But with the right mentoring, we can do the same. We can rule the world. So in today's session, the entire session is going to be for 45 minutes. For the first 30 minutes, we'll be interacting with our speakers, followed by question and answer. So if you have any questions right now, please add the questions in the comment section. Don't miss this opportunities. If you have any questions for Miss Nadia or Mr. Gunjan, add it right now. So we have people from Karnataka and even Philippines right now. Super excited to see you both. Okay, so hello, Miss Nadia, and hello, Gunjan sir. How are
Hi,
you?
hi Mega. Hi all. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. And doing great. Trust all of you are doing fine. And hi Nadia. Nice to catch up with you.
Hello, Mega. Hello, Gunjan. It's wonderful to be here with you both, and it's wonderful to be here with everyone who's joined us today. It's a real pleasure to have this conversation.
Great. So to introduce Miss Nadia first, she carry a lot of feathers in her hat. She has been working with UNDP from a long period of time in the field of health, gender equality, HIV, and whatnot. She is the UNDP Deputy Resident Representative in India. Prior to this, she was also a team leader for UNDP Regional Health and Development Team for Asia and the Pacific. It's an absolute honor to have you here, Miss Nadia. Followed by, we have Gunjan Patel. He has been championing UN Sustainable Development Goals, and he's also the regional director for SCP. He has been driving large-scale country-wide impact initiatives in collaboration with Niti Aayog, Ministry of Skill Development, Ministry of State of Karnataka, and Government of India. It's an honor to have you two here. To start with, when we talk about young people, I believe that young people are not just the future of our country, but they are the present too. And they are a great resource. But where we see on one side, the youth population is increasing day by day, while on the other hand, there's alarming rate of unemployment. So I strongly believe that youth need to be provided with tools so that they can feel empowered and they have the right career guidance. And I believe that when we empower one youth, we just don't empower youth, we empower the entire nation. So, my first question to both of you is, what is the significance of International Youth Day and why are we celebrating it?
Thank you, Megan. Please feel free to call me Nadia, and perhaps I can start first if that's okay with you, Gunjan, and then hand over. So let me say again what a pleasure it is to be invited for this conversation, and I'm really pleased that we're coming together on International Youth Day to have this discussion. And Mega, you've already outlined some of the most critical issues facing youth, and that really is where the whole idea of International Youth Day comes from. This is a celebration that has been observed for about 2 decades now. And the idea is to really bring to the forefront the issues that are most important to youth today. What challenges are they facing? Ensuring that young people are given a space and given a voice to express those challenges and to also be able to really showcase and celebrate their achievement, their solutions. It is youth who are often at the forefront of making sure that we are moving along in a track that helps us to ensure that we have a better future. So International Youth Day is really an important occasion for all of us to be reminded of the importance of thinking about the future, we want to leave behind for young people. It's important for making sure that they are very much part of our conversation in terms of highlighting the critical development challenges that are facing our world today, including the challenges you mentioned around access to jobs, access to livelihoods, protecting our environment, tackling climate change. It's essential that youth are very much at the center of helping to address those challenges, that their voices are heard, and that they are part of the solution and help to really shape and drive the future that they would like to see.
Thank you so much for sharing your views. Absolutely. It's so important that we amplify the voices of young people. They are always speaking. It's just they need right platforms at time. Moving on to Mr. Gunjan, would you like to add why we need to celebrate International Youth Day?
So thanks, Megha. And Nadia did highlight some of the critical points. And Megha, you also mentioned two very key words. One is the opportunity. Second is the skill set. And I think a lot would revolve around these two particular aspects. While there are multiple challenges and areas of interventions required to power the youth, but when we look from SAP's perspective, and when we look from a UN SDG perspective, I think the quality education or the SDG number 8, they would play a very significant role in catalyzing and propelling other SDGs. So to begin with, we need to ensure that there is a quality education for the youth, for our present and future generations, and then there should be the building up of skills through which they can thrive in the economy. They can be social entrepreneur like yourselves. Now imagine if we have more and more social entrepreneurs like you. That means more and more job creators. Then the key concern of providing a decent work and quality of the livelihood can be resolved, and that is really manifested in our mission also, which is powering opportunity through digital inclusion. So to bring a point closer to what to our heart is that how technology can play a role, and technology can play a significant role at different levels in the life cycle of a human being. So from children to youth, children to adolescents to youth. And since we are talking about youth, I think uh, collaboratively, private sectors, multilateral organizations, civil societies, government can and need to play that role, where an enabling ecosystem is created, where the youth gets the opportunity, gets the right skill set, and then importantly mentorship. So it's a function of multiple attributes which need to come together, and this is what we are trying to do along with UNDP and other partners. And that's where the significance of youth International Youth Day is there. And however, we celebrate it every day, but this is a reminder to us one more time that there is a lot more, or what we need to contribute to it. So that's what we feel about it. Yeah. So over to you, Megha.
Thank you so much, Gunjan, for mentioning that point. I can relate with it because I'm a social entrepreneur, and I realize that when I am empowered, it's just I'm impacting so many young people along with me, and then the chain continues. So it is so crucial. At the same time, this is another question to Ms. Nadia and Mr. Gunjan. What role UNDP and SCP has been doing so far in the long run, or has been doing in the past, to empower youth of a country or across the globe?
Thanks for that question, Megha. And as Gunjan has just highlighted, partnerships are absolutely critical. And if we look at this particular Youth Day this year, we are facing challenges that we've really never faced before, right? I mean, the whole impact of the COVID-19 pandemic over the last year and a half has caused such enormous disruptions for almost everyone in countries around the globe. And when we look at young people in particular, what we have to remember is that the challenges that we just discussed that many young people are facing have only been further amplified. when it comes to the last year and a half and the impacts of the pandemic. So everything beginning from access to quality education for so many young people, that has been disrupted. Access to jobs for new job seekers. This has been an incredibly difficult period to try and find jobs. For those who are in jobs, keeping those jobs has been very difficult because we know that there's been extensive job losses around the world, and young people and young women in particular are more affected by those job losses. And then again, for many young people who did have the opportunity, for example, to telework for the careers that they're in, it is often harder for young people to be able to telework successfully because they don't have the same kinds of resources as older and more secure people. So this has been a time of disruption, and of course the social upheaval itself that's happened around loss of lives and loss of livelihoods has really put on a very strong strain on young people. And so this Youth Day in particular, it is really important to reflect on what have been the lessons that have emerged from the COVID crisis, but also what have been the solutions that young people themselves have been leading, and how can we really use this as an opportunity to support dialogue with young people on how we can recover from the pandemic and really look to the future. And that brings me to what are organizations like UNDP and SAP doing. So in the case of UNDP, we are the UN's development program. What that means, but for colleagues who are not familiar with UNDP, is that our priority is to really focus on addressing poverty and exclusion, to really focus on addressing environmental degradation and climate change, and to help promote good governance. All of this with an eye to ensuring that we're contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We recognize, of course, that engaging youth is a critical central theme in making sure that we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, as Gunjan just mentioned. And for us, our focus then becomes ensuring that we are helping to support young people to access opportunities for skilling, for employment, for entrepreneurship. We also want to make sure that we are supporting young people to really engage in decision making and to be able to have an active voice and take on decision making roles. And also that they are really able to advocate on critical environmental issues and on issues such as climate change, so that they are very much helping to drive that agenda, both on advocacy and on action. And for us, the partnerships to do this are absolutely critical. So this is why we do partner with organizations like SAP, and I'm so pleased that we have this very strong partnership in India precisely to support opportunities for skilling, opportunities for young people to really improve their lives and really prepare them for the world of work and help them to be successful in the world of work.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nadia. I really like the point of engaging young people in discussions, because I believe that youth should not just be seen but be heard too. So I think that's an amazing work that UNDP has been doing. Moving on to Mr. Gunjan, would you elaborate on the work that SAP has been doing?
So I will pick the cue and the word that engaging the youth, and this is what we have been significantly doing with UNDP in the state of Karnataka since last year. And idea is to empower the youth, train them with the necessary skill sets, and align it with the local requirement. So we have been focusing on how we can equip young women from rural areas, and in such time, especially COVID and the two waves of COVID, how we actually make them micro or social entrepreneurs. And we could see that with some of the youth collab approaches, etc., we are able to not just equip this young women with the necessary skill set through mentorship, etc., but also now they are becoming the earning member of their own family. And importantly, these are all financial sustainable financial practices. So it is not just for one-off things. So that really helps us to see that economically communities are getting more and more empowered. There is a local level employment creation by women and by the local youth. And what other areas that we are focusing on is I think it's not a rocket science or something very new, but what we fundamentally believe that in case of powering the youth with opportunities, we need to look at 2 or 3 different levels. One is, let's say, if the youth is in their graduation, how we can either give them guidance towards entrepreneurship or startup, or help them to create career pathways in the ecosystem, and from our standpoint more so in technology ecosystem. So some of the workforce readiness program that we have, where we focus more and more on employability skills and impart some of the next gen technologies. Now the way ecosystem is evolving and rapidly getting disrupted, we are looking at strengthening their skills in some of the topics like data science or artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. And we have significant focus on women in technology, how we create the pipeline or the pool of women who can then make into technology. And this is not just through skills, it's possible. We need to mentor them, we need to really mold their career and shape it for the ecosystem. So what we are also trying to do is, which we piloted last year, is a kind of enable them internship or a mentorship kind of a structured mentorship kind of a program. We could do it virtually, but then as and when the opportunity permits, we would like to even give this young women or the youth the opportunities to be part of the real corporate environment. So that also is very crucial besides core skills, and what we call them 21st century skills, UNDP propounding it. So importantly, how youth can build on them. Another focus is the TVET, so that is technological vocational education training, and especially for the youth, which is not necessarily in any institution. So these are 2 or 3 broad streams that we look at, and it is needless to mention that we need a partner who brings in their thought leadership, who brings their best practices. And for example, we learned a lot while working with UNDP on some of the regional or global best practices, and we are trying to establish them in our context, like a few successful programs like Youth Collab, which was quite successful in Southeast Asia, and now we are seeing how we can roll them out in Karnataka, for example. So a lot has been done, and a lot more we are looking forward to achieving with this partnerships.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights. I would like to intervene here. Since you mentioned about the grassroots level and girls bringing change at a community level, I would love to show a small video. It's a video of a young girl, because we remember stories, we don't remember statistics. So here's a small video of a young girl. She's a beneficiary from Project Code Unnati. So it's a small 20 seconds video. So I would request somebody to play the video right now.
ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಕುಸುಮ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಯರ್ BA HESನಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲಮಂಗಲ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯಾಸಂಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಮಗೆ UNDP ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ಗಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದರು. ಆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಇಂತಹ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಗಳೇ ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನಮಗೆ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಭವಿಷ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಭವಿಷ್ಯನ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ನ ರೂಢಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಮಗೆ ದಾರಿ ತೋರ್ದಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ತುಂಬ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಕೋಡ್ ಉನ್ನತಿ ಆ್ಯಪ್ ಮೂಲಕ ನಮಗೆ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು 21 ಸೆಂಚುರಿಯ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ.
Awesome. I think that young girl was talking about how career guidance has been helping her at the grassroots level. And as Gunjan also mentioned about mentoring, I believe that with right mentors, you can rise and thrive in any field, whatever you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're doing a job or anything. But at the same time, since we have a lot of young people in our country, it is important that we talk about change, a change which should be lasting, a change which should actually be scalable also at the same time. So I have this question for Miss Nadia. What could be some of the scalable approaches to strengthen the ecosystem so that youth have access to opportunities as well as income generating activities?
This is a very good point, Mega, especially in a country as large as India, with the largest youth population in the world. We do have to focus on scale. Because for us to really make a difference, to reach vulnerable youth, young people who are being left behind, including youth from tribal communities, from migrant communities, youth with disabilities, vulnerable women, LGBT youth, I can go on and on and on, but we can't make a difference in people's lives unless we really look at the issue of scale. So for us, we've really been focusing on this for the last several years. We've been working with partners in government, in the private sector, with community groups to really test out approaches for ensuring that we could identify some best practices, lessons on what are the most successful approaches for being able to help youth transform their lives, help youth to be empowered. And through these initiatives, we've been able to reach out to about 1.3 million young people and women in testing out these initiatives. And these initiatives have really focused on a range of different priorities, including some that Gunjan has just mentioned. So for example, we're looking at what are some of the best practices in terms of helping young people to successfully transition from education to work by helping them to identify what are their career aspirations, what are their areas of interest, what are their areas of aptitude that they could really capitalize on to make that transition. We're also implementing initiatives that focus on career guidance and counseling. We're also working to really help introduce young women to the world of work and young people to the world of work. So for you can imagine that for youth that come from underprivileged backgrounds, often they don't really have exposure to the world of work. So that exposure comes through mentoring, as Gunjan just mentioned. And what we've also been supporting is internship placements, apprenticeship placements to help expose young people to the world of work. And help them really understand that, you know, this is something that is achievable for them and this is something that they can do. And then, of course, you know, one critical issue is ensuring that young people have the skills and have that opportunity for trainings to really prepare them also for the world of work. So we've done that by supporting employment marketplaces that bring young people and employers together, but also by providing skilling trainings that help young people to develop the kinds of skills that employers are looking for, so that that demand and supply come together in making sure that opportunities are expanded for young people. And of course, we've also focused quite a lot on supporting social innovation and social entrepreneurship by young people. Now, through these kinds of initiatives, we've really been able to develop some promising approaches that we think are right for scaling. And so we are working with government partners, with civil society partners, with private sector partners, and with SAP on scaling up these initiatives. So it is really, really critical that, you know, we identify the best practices, we look at ways that they need to be adapted for local contexts, but at the same time, we do need to work on ensuring that these approaches can be rolled out at scale, can reach out to large numbers of youth, and particularly beginning with a focus on those young people who are in danger of really being left behind.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nadia, for sharing that. I can relate with your point because there are so many young people whose voices get unheard, specifically from the LGBTQI community, or young people who are in the remote villages. Like I've been to Odisha, Cuttack. They are very ignorant of the opportunities that are available. So that's amazing, the kind of work that UNDP has been doing. At the same time, it also reminded me of when I got incubated by UNDP Youth Collab. The kind of guidance and the like kind of exposure I was getting, it also helped me to understand my organization from a very different perspective and develop digital tools.
Mhm.
So I can totally relate with that. Plus, at the same time, here I would like to mention my experience. So what I've seen is I'm from a legal background, and I've done my graduation from India and masters from London. What I was taught in school or maybe in college was completely different from what I was expected to do when I was working or when I was running a social enterprise. So here I have a question for Mr. Gunjan. What do you think is workforce readiness, and what exactly is the terminology, what it constitutes, and what work SAP has been doing in this field?
Yeah. So thanks, Megha. It's a very pertinent point to understand. So while knowledge is something that students can acquire through schooling and their education, I think there are areas which can create a kind of a profile or candidature for the students. Now we are talking more specifically about the youth who aspire to, let's say, get jobs into or a kind of a decent work that one is aspiring to. While there are certain core technical skills which are essential for different domains, there are some very crucial skills which we qualify them under workforce readiness. So, for example, problem solving. Now in our day-to-day work, we do encounter multiple problems, and we need to make instant decision. So whether one has the kind of logical and critical reasoning skills to understand the problem and a kind of analytical bent of mind to break down the problem and to solve it. So problem solving analytical skills are few things which one can acquire by through a proper pedagogical support. These are not textbook based learning, right? So we need to constantly remind the students that while knowing your subject is important, it's equally important that you have the problem solving and analytical skills. Another area which I would say would be communication skills. Now it may sound very cliched, but it's extremely crucial that one is articulate. It is irrespective which language it is in, but fundamentally whatever language that you are conversant with, you should be articulate enough and be very empathetic towards what you convey or how you conduct your behavior. So that is another very crucial thing that one should have. Another area which I feel is few of the social skills. So I already mentioned leader, be empathetic. So one may feel that if I am a leader, I would be like that. However, I feel that at every level or every milestone of one's life, one is a leader. It doesn't have to do with your age or certain designation that you acquire. So you can demonstrate your leadership at any level of or any kind of work that you undertake. So that is and that leadership needs to be empathetic. There you need to also be empathetic towards society, towards your peers, customers, and so on and so forth. And now importantly, we know that role that technology plays. So digital literacy or digital skilling is a critical skills that one should acquire. These are few of the workforce readiness skills which besides core topics. So if one and it depends on which domain that one comes from, but this would constitute a holistic candidature for a student. And I think a lot has been done from a research perspective from various studies, and I think UNDP and UN organization per se have identified a couple of hundred 21st century skills depending on which area or life stage you are at. But there are few which everyone should acquire, and this is what we are trying to do in collaboration with UN organizations, because we feel that while uh, there is a thought leadership that we can bring on some of the core technology skills, partnering and working together with UNDP would help us to actually holistically provide this to the students. And definitely students should be open for mentorship, and we also are keen that we foster such collaborations for students, because sometimes a guidance or mentorship would really pave the way for students to decide next career pathways. So this is what I feel are important. There are many and which is important for one is something which one can decide, but these are few which I feel is really critical considering today's time and the industry requirement.
Absolutely. I thank you, Gunjan. I can relate with it because during this COVID time, everything is digital. And I meet a lot of young people who are in remote villages like slum. They don't even have phones. So it's so important that they have the basic digital skills. At the same time, leadership is one thing which I think we should teach every single person starting from first class. And it should be something which should be part of the curriculum, like lead without a title. You should not be needing a title to lead. Moving on, I have this question for Miss Nadia. How important do you think 21st century skills are for young people in terms of employability?
Thank you, Megha. I fully agree with everything that Gunjan has just said. I think he's outlined it so well. 21st century skills are absolutely essential for employability, uh, and particularly for ensuring that people are able to get the kinds of jobs that they are aspiring to, that enable them to earn a good income and have successful livelihoods. It is increasingly the critical element in being able to decide on employability. So what we see, of course, is that the world around us is changing very quickly. Certainly, the pace of change has really sped up, and as Gunjan has just said, digital literacy, use of digital technologies has become so much more important, and especially so over the last year and a half. So increasingly, young people need to be successful, need to be prepared with 21st century skills. And Gunjan has described this so well. You know, skills like communication are essential. Skills like the ability to think analytically, to think critically, to be able to work in a team, to be able to solve complex problems. And you said it just a few moments ago. For so many of us, we go through school sort of learning a very traditional curriculum and being taught to sort of memorize things and regurgitate, without so much of an investment in, how do you communicate? How do you present yourself? How do you have that confidence to lead? How do you have that space to think, to suggest ideas, to make mistakes sometimes? Those kinds of skills are incredibly important for today's world of work. So it is really critical for us to look at ways that we can ensure that these kinds of 21st century skills form a core part of the educational curriculum. And I fully agree with what you said. Everyone should be taught to be a leader. Leadership is not just being on top of a hierarchy. Leadership, you can be a leader at whatever level you are working. And it's really important to really give people that confidence, and ensure that they have that space to build their leadership skills and to see themselves as leaders in whatever domain they're working in and at whatever level they're working in. So with SAP, what we're really pleased about is that together we have been able to develop a curriculum that really focuses on these 21st century skills, that really helps to position young people. We're focusing on young people from the ages of about 16 to 24 to build their skills when it comes to interview skills, resume writing skills, communication skills, empathy skills, leadership skills. And this is a curriculum that is an open curriculum that's accessible to anyone who wants to use it. It's a curriculum that's available in English and in several Indian regional languages. And with this curriculum, we really hope that we are contributing very strongly to this push to ensure that young people who have not had the opportunity to have these kinds of skills developed in school still have an opportunity to really expose themselves to trainings that allow them to foster these skills. And I'll just mention one more point, again, linking to something that you said. It's where we are right now is a very challenging place for many, many, many young people who don't have access to digital technologies, who don't have access to these opportunities. So investing in access and investing in digital skilling is incredibly important to make sure that we don't have young people who fall even further behind because the opportunities for them become unreachable. So I'm very optimistic that through this work that we're doing, we're really contributing very importantly to this conversation and to moving forward an ecosystem that really takes skilling very seriously and that really prioritizes 21st century skills.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nadia, for adding that. Being a young person, I'm super excited for this curriculum, and I'm sure a lot of young people across the globe will be excited. So we have this. In fact, Gunjan Patel, would you like to add something? And there's this one question which is saying that where can we find this curriculum?
Sure. So I think one thing I wanted to further reinforce is that there have been efforts to bring 21st century skills for young children or adolescents and for youth, and organizations like UNDP and all have been pioneering that. We joined forces with them to at least pilot this out in the state of Karnataka, and now actually many of us are aware that the new education policy of government of India start talking about it. So the importance of coding and digital skills have been realized long back, and now it's a part of new education policy. So I think sixth standard onwards, the school curriculum will have coding skills to be imparted, and it's not just coding skills, but importantly, think logically and critically. So those are key components of again NEP. And I think sometime back in the discussion, it was mentioned that transition from the school based education to the vocational education, and I think NEP has done a good job of putting that into the framework of its policy guidelines. Now it is up to us. Actually, we need to do a lot more collaborative work together to ensure that the schools are able to adopt this faster and in an accelerated pace. We also need to work together with teachers and equip them with the necessary tools so that they imbibe such skills and take it to the students. For currently we have already put some of those skill sets and packages on our microsite, that is codeunnati.org, and soon it would be available on our mobile applications also, that is again codeunnati.org, which anyone can access it. And it's a work in progress. We would continue to add more skill set, more packages into this 21st century skills, and try to make it accessible. So we have arms and ammunitions ready. What we want is to take it to the necessary to the students and the beneficiary group, because the proof of that particular pudding is in eating it and testing it. So we are now taking it to the students and to the teachers as well, and hopefully like us, many other uh, uh, corporates and civil society organizations join forces with us to take it forward.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Gunjan, for mentioning that it is for teachers also, because I train teachers pan India, and I can understand that how beautifully they're going to benefit from this and then impart the knowledge to children further. So
Yes.
now the house is open for questions. If anybody has any questions, you can mention in the chat section. We have it's not a question, but somebody is mentioning that we have seen this in Olympics, that a person who was given proper like infrastructure, we got a gold medal. So with the right infrastructure, right knowledge, youth can thrive and rise.
Maybe if I'm allowed to, substantiate this is, uh, see, one of our initiatives that we have, which predominantly focuses on, training young girl children predominantly, and it's not just the education that we are looking at. We are actually using sports as means to development, and that not just help these girls to come closer with one another, and that's a social cohesion and bond homie being built. And the obvious outcomes would be, we can excite the sportsman spirit in them. We can also see more sports. And um, coming to a point of infrastructure, I think with partnerships that we have with UN organizations, or with our project Nannikali, or our partners, and private sectors that we have, I think one of the focus is on building social infrastructure, and working with governments is to further strengthen the physical infrastructure in the initiative. So ours is a vast country. We are trying to fill in how much ever we can, bit by bit or drop by drop, but definitely if everyone will come together, we will fill in the full ocean. So let's aim towards that.
Yes, I think together we can bring the change. So I have this question to Miss Nadia. It's like a personal question I want to ask. So when you were young, when you were a youth, what was that one skill that you had in you, which actually allowed you to amplify the voices of other young people, so that we all can get inspired from you? What was that one skill that you had when you were young?
Well, I still like to try and think of myself as young, although I don't qualify anymore. But I think for me, a skill that was very important is empathy. And I think it's sometimes a skill that we don't look at enough when it comes to leadership. I think it's important that we really encourage everyone, but particularly leaders, to be empathetic, to be able to put themselves in the shoes of others, to be able to understand how they can support and empower others, because that is so, so critical. You know, for each of us, we each can play such an important role in looking at who's being left out. How can we make sure that we are supporting environments that are inclusive and that bring in the voices of communities that don't have a voice? So empathy for me is a skill that it is important to focus on, and is a very important and complementary skill to making sure that young people develop into full-fledged, flourished leaders.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mr. Gunjan, would you like to add that one skill?
Uh, I don't know whether to call it a skill or not, but I think never to give up or never giving up, despite multiple failures, was something which I always had, and many other skills that I'm still learning. But I felt that I never gave up, despite so many failures. So that's one thing I really feel that make me what I am today.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a very fruitful and insightful discussion. Even I got to learn a lot of things from Miss Nadia and Mr. Gunjan. Thank you so much for taking our time. In the end, I would like to conclude this by saying that I believe youth are not just the future of our country, but they're the present. So we need to invest in them in the present moment. And the skills that we mentioned, it should not just be a luxury. It should be a basic necessity, like a human right for every young person who is out there. And I'm sure a lot of young people are going to benefit from this. Again, when you empower a youth, you just don't empower a youth, you empower the entire nation. And I'm sure this project is going to empower the entire nation. Thank you so much, everybody who joined us from across the globe. It was wonderful to have a discussion, and a very happy International Youth Day. Thank you.